Got someone in from Ecuador. Hi, Ken from Denmark. Got a designer from Cape Town. Good to have you. Johannesburg, Brazil. Awesome. Copenhagen. Tanya from Copenhagen. Argentina. I'm currently sitting in Joburg, South Africa. Copenhagen, Argentina. We've got Yaku here from Sandola Design. Thank you, Yaku. Ignatius, also from Johannesburg, South Africa, representing. Although we're not able to see any, we haven't been seeing each other, as most of the world hasn't been. It's all been in this format. Safe to assume. Okay. Okay, I'm back again. Welcome to those who have just tapped in now. If you haven't caught it yet, everyone's introducing themselves on the chat. So if you've just joined and you're keen to do so, please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, where are you now in the world, and what you do. It'd be great to just get a bit of a sense. But I see the chat is going mad at the moment, so this is great to see everyone from all over the world. Thank you for joining us today. I see we've got a couple people jumping in on the camera as well. Thanks, guys. Welcome. A little bit of a wave. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Does feel a little bit one way for me, but you guys are muted right now, so needless to say, right? We will have Q&A later. Berlin. I miss Joburg. Obviously, someone who used to live in Joburg. It's very warm here at the moment. To whoever it is, who is it there? The chat's moving quite quickly. Someone from Joburg. It's warm here at the moment. Cape Town, Sweden. Awesome. Okay, guys, I see a couple more people coming in. The number is rising, which is exciting. For those of you who have just joined, and to the detriment of those that have heard me say this 3 or 4 times already, it'd be great if you could share where you are in the world, introduce yourself in the chat. For those that just joined right now, we'll get going in 1 minute. Okay, to everyone who has joined us, I see we've got 85 people, which is fantastic. Welcome to UX Joburg. My name is Gavin Carter. I'm a UX designer, and as I've said, I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm going to be your host this evening. If anyone out there would like to get in touch with me, you can do so via LinkedIn. So before we get going, we'd like to just thank this evening's sponsor. So that's UX Joburg's sponsor, which is Sand Dollar Design. If you would like to find out more about their services, you can go ahead and visit their website at sanddollar.co. So thank you, Sandola. Cool. So please, guys, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, on Meetup, on Facebook, or LinkedIn with recommendations. We're always looking for new speakers, new interesting topics, and we want to get some feedback from you guys. So if you guys have any ideas, if some of you have been joining us regularly, please go ahead and do that. Now, this session will be recorded. It is being recorded. So don't worry about having to remember every detail of the awesome content that is coming. Sit back and relax and enjoy. And you will be able to find this recording in two places. First is via the UX Joburg's YouTube channel. This is what we tend to call our long form content. And that's because we include these intro slides, we include the whole speaker talk, the Q&A, and the closing info. And that is split up, so it's easy to jump into those, but that's the long form. And then next up, we have the UX Joburg podcast, which is essentially the short form content, and that is just focusing on the speaker. So you can go and just listen to that. And just a note from our last, the last UX Joburg meetup that we had in this last year, it was by Debbie. Well, we had Debbie Levitt on with us, and that was titled "Stop Evangelizing UX and What to Do Instead," and that was pretty great. So just wanted a reminder that we have put that up on our YouTube channel and on the various podcast channels. So if you did miss that, go check that out. Cool. So this evening's meetup is going to basically be broken down into three major components. First, we're going to have the talk. We're obviously going to hear from our speaker. Then we're going to move into some Q&A. A Q&A piece with our speaker, and Q&A we'll have some questions, we'll be taking some questions throughout the talk, and then we'll have a more dedicated sort of 5 to 10 minutes to tackle some additional questions. And just a couple, I guess, admin logistical notes on that. So please post your questions actually on the Zoom chat group, as we've been using to introduce ourselves. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to select those questions, and we will actually from the selection, we'll actually call you out and say, ask you to introduce yourself. If you feel comfortable, turn on your video and ask your question yourself. And then our speaker will be able to respond in that way. So that's how we're going to try out the Q&A today. So please, even as we go through the talk, start sending questions as they come to mind. That would be great. And then finally, the third piece, the third component that we're going to be moving into is networking, as we normally do. And when we get to that section, we'll provide a bit more information. We are going to use the breakouts function for those of you that are aware of that functionality. Then moving over to our giveaway. So we're giving away 3 tickets to the first ever DXZA online conference, which is happening tomorrow. And these 3 tickets will be awarded to the 3 people that have shown the greatest engagement through their questions, through their comments, etc., through tonight's meetup. And the winners will be announced later this evening. Obviously, if you'd like to find out a bit more information about DXZA, you can go to the web link you see on the screen, dxza.co.za. Great. So moving over to tonight's speaker, Børge Kristensen. Børge and I actually met on LinkedIn, and it was quite a coincidence. I didn't know that he was actually going to, he didn't know I was going to be facilitating, etc. And we've actually exchanged some good conversations, and he's been schooling me on quite a lot of the UX topics, which has been quite a pleasure and an honor for me. Børge is a UX consultant from Copenhagen, Denmark. He has worked in the internet industry since the last century and has been consulting on making websites useful and usable for more than a decade. Børge, it is wonderful to have you here on UX Joburg this evening. You can go ahead and share your screen as soon as I stop sharing mine.
Here we go. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. I'll be talking about web usability heuristics. And me and a colleague have created a new set of heuristics that we think reflect the problems that we see on the modern web. And these will help you to root out usability problems on your websites. So what I will be going through is obviously I want to present the 9 web usability heuristics. I have a number of examples and descriptions of them, and I'll be comparing them to some of the other sets that are available. And many of the sets are really inspiring, and I would encourage you to look into them. But they have, each of them have pluses and minuses. And I'll also briefly be speaking about how usability inspection using heuristics relates to usability testing with real users. So when to do what. And then at the end, we'll try a brief usability inspection in practice, and I'll be asking like 4 people to come forward, form a little group workshop conversation about the pages we'll be going through. And I will take questions like twice during this presentation, after the presentation of the heuristics as such, and then at the end. So I'm not going to hide them from you. Here are the heuristics we'll be talking about. So at my company, we were doing usability testing and we were doing inspections. When we did inspections, we recognized problems that we had seen on other websites, but it was sometimes hard to connect them or classify them, to categorize them to some of the existing heuristics. So we tried different things, looked at several sets, and at the end, we decided to go through a list of 299 usability problems that we had found on websites, mobile websites, desktop websites, public sector websites, private sector websites, and so on. And then try to see how could we categorize them in a way that made sense. And I think obviously this set makes sense, and you can see if it makes sense for you. So when you do heuristic evaluation, you are looking at pages, websites, apps, trying to recognize some problems. And that means we find it's very important that the heuristics are easy to remember. So these ones, there are only 9 of them. They consist of only one word: clarity, tolerance, structure, simplicity, and so on. So that's a manageable number. And they are based on research. They are based on actual problems that users have had on websites. So that's why we think this might be a good set for you. And obviously, you have to understand a little bit more in order to use them properly than just the name of each heuristic. So we put together an article on our website that goes into a little bit more detail, and we've just translated it from Danish into English. So it's been uploaded today, and you can find it. I put a link to it, and I will be linking to some other stuff from our company page on LinkedIn. So you can go ahead and look at it there. I was hoping to send you this link, but I'll do that later on. So there you go. Let's start from the beginning. What are heuristics actually? Well, they are groups of problems. So one user might not see something on a website because he had to scroll before it was visible. And another user might not see something because it's in the right-hand column. And a third user might not see it because the link is too small. So these problems have something in common, and that we can call a heuristic. So in this case, we would call this heuristic a problem with visibility or discoverability. So that's how it works. And so how do you use them? You use them for some kind of usability inspection. And there are many, many methods available for usability inspections. The most common ones are heuristic evaluation and cognitive walkthrough. And so what you do, or what you have, is you always have a list of principles, for instance, heuristics, but it could also be questions, as we will see later on. These ones are from an international standard. And then you have obviously a website, or you have a prototype, a sketch, or even a description of some future system that you're building that you can inspect. So that's one of the great things with usability inspections, that you don't have to have anything that's finished. And then you have evaluators. You don't do inspection with actual users. You use evaluators. So it's something that you can do in your team or a small group. It's not recommended to do it all by yourself, because then some matters of taste will come in. And what that generates then is a list of problems. So you see something on the website that doesn't look right, and you try to then categorize it to a heuristic. And if you can't categorize it to a heuristic, well, either you've discovered the 10th heuristic now, or it might be just your own taste, so your own personal opinion, and it's not a real problem. So that's basically how usability inspections work. When then would you do usability inspections? When would you use the heuristics? Why not just do usability testing? Involve real users? Well, it could be that you just have a few pages. You have like 3 pages, a flow of 3 pages or something. And that's it would be like too much to define a whole usability project and call in users, and it'll take days to recruit and so on. So that's one thing. You've made quick sketches, you have 3 finished pages, you want to see might there be some usability problems here. Or it could be your project is secret. So you can't involve users because they might talk about this brilliant new app to your competitors. Or let's say the world got hit by a pandemic and usability testing suddenly becomes very, very difficult. Of course, there's also remote usability, but I guarantee you usability inspection is corona safe. The most obvious cases, I think, is actually that you want to do usability testing at some point. But you've probably tried to do usability testing, and some of the problems you were like, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? So many of the problems we find are pretty obvious, and you want to kind of get rid of those before you show your system to real users. And it might also be that you've done usability testing, but maybe you want to cover some more ground, see some more subtle problems, maybe. So those 2 scenarios are good. Doing a quick usability inspection before you do testing, and then quickly redesign the pages, get rid of the problems, then show users something so that you can learn more. But does that work? I mean, we are, you know, you are not the user. We've always been told that. So does it actually work? That's a fair question. As you probably have heard, if you test with just 5 users in usability testing, you are most likely to see problems that affect more than 31% of the whole population. So that's what this diagram is going to show. So in usability testing, and now each person represents a usability problem. So the big problems, the frequent problems that all users run into, almost all users run into. There's a word that's just not understandable. There's a link that just doesn't look like a link, and so on. Would you see them if you did usability testing? Yeah, there's been a lot of research on this, and you would be sure that the big problems that you find in a usability test, you can be pretty sure that you would also find them if you do usability inspection without users. Then there are problems like in the middle, like that some users have, not all. And would you discover them during usability inspection? Yeah, it turns out you would discover some of them, but not all. So it's still a good idea to do usability testing with users. Something else happens. You start to discover problems that let's say you do a usability inspection first, and you find some problems, and then when you do testing, those problems don't show up. So what's happening there? And then the problems that affect less than 31% of all users, it's very unlikely that you'll see many of them in a usability test with just 5 users. But actually, it continues that you will find a lot of tiny problems when you do usability inspection. So what's happening here? Jeff Sorrow from the company measuring usability tried to find out about that. So he said, no, let's not test 5 users. Let's actually test 50 users. And lo and behold, some of the problems that inspectors had found during usability inspection, heuristic evaluation, actually started to show up. You know, if you test 50 users, 1 or 2 of them might actually discover this problem. So it seems that it's not always that problems you find are false positives if users don't discover them during testing. So that is why it's actually usability inspection is actually a powerful tool, because you can find more subtle problems that you would in a typical usability test. And the combined irritation by all those small problems, they actually mean something. As I can show you in this case, this is a client. They redesigned their website twice. The first time it was just based on a set of guidelines. Okay, let's do the best we can, and we did usability testing. The task completion rate was 76%. So the green numbers are direct successes. Users were able to figure out what to do first time they tried. The yellow 33% are cases where users had to try several times, and 24% they had to give up or found something wrong. Right. Then we did usability inspection of that redesigned website and fixed all the problems we found. And task completion rate went up by 12 points. What's more, you can see that the cases that where users had to try several times to do something, they were cut in half. the number of times they had to give up was were cut in half. And that, of course, meant something for the satisfaction rating. In the first round of redesign, the satisfaction rating was 63%, so 5 out of 7, which is average. And then after the redesign, where we fixed all the small problems from usability inspection, the result was 84% satisfied users. And sometimes we are tasked with doing usability inspection and then usability testing of the same system. And you can actually like calculate how a successful usability inspection is. I will show you later. So the success rate of the inspection was 53%, and on the same website, when we tested with real users, it was 58%. So they are not far from each other. So it's pretty reliable, right? But why do we need a new set? I mean, there are so many sets that are available. I'm just trying, sorry, I'm just trying to send you. For some reason, I can't access chat while I'm presenting. Never mind, I'll do it later. But if you look at I'll put it all up on the Copinox LinkedIn page. So a while ago, I made a list of 8 different sets of heuristics, and there are really some interesting ones. One is actually part of an international standard. Ben Schneiderman's golden rules of user interface design is also very well known. And Susan Weinschenk and Dean Barker decided to do a giant card sort of all heuristics and principles that were available to them, and came up with this set of 20 that we actually used for a while. It's not bad. The most famous set, though, is Jacob Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics for user interface design. And it is a set from 1995, actually. And it's based on a set of heuristics Jacob Nielsen and Rolf Molich created in 1990. And how did they discover these heuristics that provide feedback, error prevention, be consistent, provide shortcuts, provide good error messages, and so on? Where did they come from? I mean, there wasn't much web at the time. No, actually, it was based on reviews of computer system software. And software at the time were like command line interfaces like this one. So this is where these heuristics are derived from. And I'm sure some of you are already asking, can heuristics identify by analyzing usability issues in software be used to evaluate websites? And that's the question me and my colleague asked ourselves. If we look at Jacob Nielsen's heuristics, actually 4 of them have to do with error handling and help text. And while that is, those are important issues, I don't think it's like 40% of all problems we see on websites or 40% of everything we have to deal with. So what is the difference between a website and software? Well, on websites, there's more content, there's much more navigation, and there's more visual design. And that's the kind of problems we have trouble categorizing with these older sets of heuristics. And that's a problem because we did another categorization of usability problems that we have found. And navigation and visual design and content are actually top 5 categories of usability problems, actually top 4 categories of usability problems. So using the old heuristics, it can be a problem to identify issues that have to do with navigation, content, and visual design. And that's why we created the new set. I will give you a couple of examples. Oops. So here these are not the problems. This is a South African example. These are not the problems we discovered, but this is a page that's almost identical to a page where we discovered a problem in usability testing. So the names of the clinics here and the hospitals are actually clickable in the blue bars. But users didn't notice that in our test because there's something else like the red links, more info, get directions and email and so on that look more clickable. So the question is, how would you categorize that with the different sets of heuristics? And now I unshared so that I can share with you a link here to a survey, because I would actually ask you all to click that link and go into SurveyMonkey. And then I've put together a list of the traditional heuristics and then the new set. And we'll see if any of them do, just so that you've tried to use both. I'll give you like 2 minutes for that. Two responses so far. We need more. $17. $34. You are so fast. Okay, I think let's so in the first one, we have visibility of system status match between 8 of the 10 heuristics have been in use here. The biggest one is consistency and standards. And then in the other one, the new set, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 5 of the heuristics have been in use, and the majority said affordance. In terms of what is correct, I think in Nielsen's, if you read the longer descriptions, it would actually be aesthetic and minimalist design that you would categorize it. And here, the correct answer is actually affordance. All right, cool. Let's see another problem. I don't have a survey for each one, but here's another problem. A long list of ebooks, and users had a hard time finding relevant books when they cannot navigate by author, topic, or title, but only by numbers. So there you have it. And you can think about how would you categorize that in with the 2 sets of heuristics. In the new set, the correct answer will be structure. And then some headings are too general for users to be understood. DHL here has put all the useful information in one section of the website, and all the unuseful information, I'm sure, in the other sections. But users have a hard time predicting what's actually on the page in this section when the name is too general, and that in our categories would be clarity. In other sets, it's a bit harder to put together. So it turns out we actually do need a new set of heuristics, is my conclusion. So let's go through them. Simplicity, we've described that as things having to be as simple as possible, not overwhelming, and there must not be any unnecessary steps. So before Christmas, I was corona tested, and I had to reserve a spot for testing. And you get into this system, and you can look at the 17th and see there are no free times, and there are no times on the 18th, and there are no times on the 19th. So why doesn't this system just show me the first time that's available? Would be a question, instead of the user having to click and click and click. Here's another example that I see a lot. You can see the first few lines of a text, but you have to actively click read more to actually read more, instead of just reading and scrolling. So that's an interaction cost for the user. It costs some interaction, some click, or some thinking to access the information. The second heuristic is consistency. Uniform, recognizable presentation and interaction matches users' expectation. So what happens if I click on the logo Google Drive? I can search. Ah, nice. So now I've learned that. But then I go on to another Google system, Google News, and I want to search. So I think, okay, I can just go ahead and click the logo, then I can search. But that just means that the page reloads. So here's an inconsistency. Two similar objects behave differently. And that, of course, gives me unnecessary interaction. Here, another COVID example. I got an alert from the app that traces if you have been in close proximity to an infected person, which apparently I had. So I get this interface to warn me, and then I'm asked to go on to a site to be tested, the site we saw before. So here's the second interface I have to deal with. That's completely different. And they call it Corona testing here, or COVID-19 testing here. When I actually get to the place, they call it COVID-19 swab. So that's a third thing. And then if I want to see a result, the results of the test, believe it or not, I have to go to a fourth interface and learn how to navigate that. And actually to log into that site, I go to a fifth interface. And if I want advice on how to handle Corona, read the guidelines and so, I have to go to a sixth interface with different navigations and different buttons and so on. And that's a lot of trouble, actually. The OECD a while ago did a lot of testing of how of people's computer skills, and this is in the rich world, right? The developed world. People have a lot of computers. You have to be a level 2 person to actually comfortably navigate across pages in app. Do that without problem. And it turns out it's less than 50% of the population that doesn't have a problem with that. So consistency issues are really important. We have another heuristic called discoverability. Elements are visible, not hidden. They are designed and placed so that they are easy to spot. Here is a South African example. This is actually what I see on my computer on the first screen. And I could totally think that, okay, very nice, simple page. But the problem is there's more. So this is a scroll stopper. This long horizontal bar, the red bar, like gives me the impression that this is what there is. This is called illusion of completeness. And actually there's a lot more. And we see again and again that people don't scroll on pages that have these scroll stoppers. Another problem is that things often are hidden in a hamburger menu. So the hamburger menu doesn't actually tell me what to do. This is the Scandinavian Airlines app, and I used it to track my points, my bonus points. And I had it installed for months, honestly, until I actually found out that hey, you can actually book flights with this app, because that option was hidden from me. Then you have structure, chunking, categorization, grouping of elements according to users' needs and mental models in a logical order or sequence. So here's an example from a real estate site. These are projects, new buildings from all over Denmark, 150 of them. And luckily I can filter, but I can only filter to 5 regions or provinces. And if I take the capital region, that's 78 projects or houses that I have to choose between. And that's mentally impossible. And there are like 100 kilometers between them. Clarity is a huge problem. Things need to be comprehensible, precise, unambiguous, and there has to be an evident difference between the items and clear context. So obviously we see that a lot with content. This is, I believe, a Corona site for the general public, but still they're using words like comorbidities, respiratory droplets, pathogens. I actually had to look some of those up to know what they were. And it can also be visual. Here I'm trying to buy a tea book on Amazon, The Art and Craft of Tea, and I can see there's a subtitle down here. So but I can't see it, so I'll try to enlarge it. Oh, that's search. So, you know, icons can, even that are very familiar, can mean different things. Control is one of the heuristics. The user, not the system, is in control. There has to be an appropriate pace, and actions can be reverted in a usable system. So this is something we see a lot, all these pop-ups. I haven't asked for this. As soon as I visit this website, some choices unrelated to my task pop up. And when I start browsing, I get another pop-up. Don't you want our newsletter? Well, you haven't like proven yourself to me yet, so maybe not. And the user feels that he is not in control. Then here's another example with carousels. So I'm actually, I was trying to read that text, but it disappeared before I could read it. Let me click this button. Now it disappeared before I could click it. So the pace of the tempo of this page is not suitable to me. So that's another case where users lose control, and it's not that usable. Affordance, we talked about that already. It's the case where this design is self-evident. Interactive elements signal how they should be used. So a link looks like a link, a button looks like a button. It was actually by accident I found out that Nespresso has descriptions of that coffees, that these black names are actually links, because the green here button looks like a link, but black text with no underline doesn't. And recently I got a package from Finland, and I had a tracking number, so I had to go to the Finnish post office to track my package. And unfortunately, I don't read Finnish, and it's a language that's very different from Danish and most other languages. So what could I do? I couldn't figure it out. I had to change to English. And track your item. So this little thing here, it's actually not a button. It's actually a text field that I can enter text into, but it doesn't look like something you can enter text into because the label is inside the text field, which is a no-no. And of course I can change to English. That's fine, but it would be like a celebration of intuitivity if I could use this site in a language I don't understand, because the design was so good, which it isn't. Tolerance. The system needs to do like reasonable interpretation of users' inputs and clicks, and small errors have to be ignored. So here's one example. It often has to do with search. These kinds of problems. So I searched for Johannesburg on Pixabay, an image site, and I get these wonderful images from skylines and a lot of lions and zebras and so on. If I search for Joburg, which is used, I would say, as often as Johannesburg, I get a totally different result, none of them from Johannesburg. So that obviously is a problem. So users who enter Johannesburg versus Joburg mean exactly the same thing. So the results should actually be exactly the same. And finally, ergonomics. Interfaces need to be physically easy to use, and elements should not challenge or exceed motor or sensory abilities. So how would you click this circle without touching the other with a fat finger? It's called the fat finger syndrome. It's impossible. And I guess this is an old example, but I guess you've tried these flyout menus that can be very, very tricky to use. So here you have it. Discoverability, consistency, structure, clarity, simplicity, tolerance, control, affordance, and ergonomics. We believe that all usability problems can be categorized into those 9 categories. And at this point, I would take some questions.
Yep, great. I think we have one question that has come through so far from Ruan. I don't know if Ruan, if you feel comfortable to jump on and have a chat with us, if you're still there.
Yeah, so I think that question was answered. That was about the Nielsen Institute's list of heuristics, and so that question was in fact answered.
Okay.
Okay, great. Is there anyone, it's very much casual, so is there anyone who has any questions at this point from what we've seen? And if you do, just let us know in the chat and we'll unmute you, turn your video on, and we can tackle that. Will this come out in a book? Børge, we know you love books, is someone saying there.
I will think about that.
in consideration.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Any other questions?
Yes. Okay. We've got some people coming in. So
are the slides going to be shared? Yeah, yes, they are. I will make them available on our LinkedIn channel, and you can post them.
Okay, we do have one question brewing. I see there. I think it's Andreas saying he's just formulating the question.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can just unmute him from our side, UX Joburg, help us, please. So we do have I don't know if you see there, Børge, we do have a question from Lizette. How did you go about building out these heuristics?
Okay,
what was
yeah.
the process? Maybe we can tackle that one.
Right, yeah. So what we did, let me see. We took all our usability reports that were fairly recent and made a long list of all the problems that we found across websites. And there were 299 in all. And then we just started out with different sets of heuristics, such as Nielsen's we have here, and several other sets. And then we tried to, okay, this is visibility, this is, maybe we can call this noticeability because it is visible, but people don't notice it anyway, and so on. And then I think we had, after the first round, we may have like 15, 20 categories. And then we said, that's too much for practical use. We have to cut it down. So then when we went through it a second time, we tried to say, actually noticeability and visibility, they're kind of related. Could we call that maybe discoverability? So that was the process. Then we ended up with this one. This is in Danish, but we will make it available in in English very shortly. So did that answer your questions, or do you have a follow-up?
So we do have a couple more. So we've got Austin. I don't know if Austin, if you want to ask your question and jump on, we can unmute you
Yeah,
there.
so I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so my question was, I see a lot of these heuristics, and I think, it seems like a lot of these can apply to other products and processes. So I just wanted to see if you've considered how they might translate into other types of things that aren't websites. I understand that you didn't make it for other things, but I see the relatability there.
Right. I actually have tried to review a coffee machine, a coffee vending machine with these heuristics, and it worked. It worked well. I found, and some problems. I think every set every set would be helpful. If you take Nielsen's, if you take Weinschenk's set and do an inspection of a website, that would be fine. But it's like Nielsen's, I think, would be more helpful if you evaluated software or something software-like. Weinschenk's heuristics were actually built for voice interfaces, so they would be very helpful for that purpose. But they would also kind of cover coffee machines and websites and whatnot. And then our heuristics, we specifically said we will not. It's not our purpose to review voice systems or machines. We will optimize this for websites, but I think all the sets can be of some help. And of course, if you find that some other set is more helpful to you, by all means, use that. I'm just posting you the link to all the different sets of heuristics.
Perfect. So we do have, I'm just trying to follow the list as accurately as I can on my side, Børge. We do have someone just asking about, Andrew's asking about if you have a source for that 31% statistic that you showed earlier with the, the 31% and the 100%.
Right. Yeah, I think you can find it. So that's, if you go to inngroup.com and search for why you only have to test with 5 users, there's an explanation there. But actually, Jeff Sorrow has a better explanation. I think he has an article. I think there's a link in the article I just sent you to an article called "Why You Only Have to Test with 5 Users Explained." I'm afraid you have to. I had to read it several times to understand it, but yeah, there are sources for that.
Okay, great. Apologies, anyone, if I miss your question. We normally have quite a bit more lead time to process them and have a look. They're all coming streaming in. So I think next up we have, likely pronouncing the name wrong, but Dejan. Do you want to get on the mic and ask your question? If we can just get help from our side unmuting. There you go. You should be unmuted. Okay, maybe there's something, maybe he's not talking there, but let me just read this, the last one here, Børge, before we continue. So can you explain competitive web analysis versus web usability heuristics? Maybe it's the same. I mean, almost the same. I don't know if that's enough context there to...
Web analysis, to me, it sounds like that you are comparing different websites to each other. Is it like... I must say I'm not familiar with that exact term, but there are methods where you like compare what is the functionality or what kinds of functionality is available on different.
Yeah, like benchmarking of, but yeah, I think maybe that's a question that we're not sure of the context. So
but heuristic usability inspection has to do with assessing the usability of any system. Are there any usability problems? We don't go into, is this feature available? Is this content available? It's what is there, is that usable? So
okay, great. So if okay with you, Børge, maybe we wrap up QA for now, Q&A for now, and we continue. I know you got a couple more slides, and then we can continue with a couple if we have time before moving on to the networking.
Right. So I would actually like to do a little short usability inspection in practice. And what I want to point out actually is I mentioned in the beginning there are these different methods. And I would actually recommend not to do heuristic, not just go ahead and take the heuristics and then find your favorite problem and find a category for that, because that could generate false positives. And that's actually been tested in research at universities. So Andrew Sayers did a study of different usability inspection methods and their effectiveness. And he found out the best way to inspect a website is actually to do what we will call what's called a cognitive walkthrough first. After that, do a heuristic evaluation, not the other way around. And he was very innovative in naming that method, heuristic walkthrough. So that's what we'll be introducing now. The problem is if you only do a cognitive walkthrough, which is task-based, so you go through the system as a user would do if I want to change my data or order something from the website or whatever. You go through it step by step. If you only do that, you will only find the big problems, the top problems that most people have. And of course, it's very important to find those problems, but the sum of all the small problems also affects usability and satisfaction, and so on. So the thing is, if you only do heuristic evaluation, you will find too many tiny problems that don't really matter by themselves. And some of them will be false positives. So let's say I really like blue links. I think all links should be blue. And then on a website that I'm inspecting, I see a green link. And oh my God, I need to tell them off now. So let me find some heuristic that matches my opinion. Oh yeah, consistency. Yeah, it's inconsistent. Actually, it's probably not a problem that the links are green. So that's the problem. If you do both, if you combine them, first you go through the website as a user would do, meaning with a task in mind. Then you are kind of focused on that task. Okay, can I actually order my books? My book? Can I actually change my make changes to my data on this website? And then when I do look at the heuristics afterwards, I'm kind of relaxed and focused on the important thing, focused on the task. So now a second survey. Quickly, I would like to ask you how many of you have used heuristic evaluation? How many of you have tried doing a cognitive walkthrough? How many of you have tried both? And how many of you have tried none of them? And I'll send you the link just now. Here we go. And let's see, wow. Right, a lot of you have done both. Many of you have done either or. I'm actually surprised cognitive walkthrough is so well known. That's great. Right. Perfect. Thank you very much. Let's go back and see. So here is the full heuristic walkthrough methodology step by step. First of all, you have to determine what you want to inspect. Is it a website, a prototype, an app? And then briefly describe the user and the context of use. Who is this user? Why is he or she doing using this system now? Select a task and write down the correct steps for each task. Not what you think a user would do, but how it's actually done on the website. And then walk through each step. For each step, ask 4 questions that I'll show you later. This is the cognitive walkthrough part. And for each question, you answer, will the user see this? Does the user get appropriate feedback? And so the answer is either yes or no. And you make a list of successes and failures. Then you take a second look individually. So the cognitive walkthrough is traditionally done in a group so that you can discuss, I think a user would, and so on. Whereas heuristic evaluation is done alone. So you take a look at the pages again, and then you can focus on other things that what was needed to do the task. You can try making an error and see what happens. You can see, oh, this way of making a button, is that the same way they do in some other section, and so on. So it's much more free. Then from both methods, you make a list of all the problems, and then you assign a heuristic. And that's a little test. First of all, it's a test. So is it a real problem, or is it just my opinion? If you can assign a heuristic, it's probably it might be a real problem. And it's also helpful sometimes, because sometimes you're in doubt. Is this simplicity or is it structure? And thinking about that actually helps you come up with a solution sometimes. Then you rate the severity of the problems. Is it a big problem, a medium problem, a small problem? And then you try to find solutions for the problems, ideally by referring to usability guidelines, something that has been studied. This is how to make a great button design. Right. And who should be on the team? Ideally, someone who knows the website. Who can answer, no, this is actually not the easiest way to do it. The steps are, you can do it like this. No, this page is available in another section. And then it would be helpful to have someone who knows the users, talks to the users, someone from a help desk, for instance, who can answer questions like, would a user use this word? Is that what they call things? And then a usability expert who could say, who can kind of, who have seen users use interfaces, who can kind of say the others, no, you know what, guys, that actually people don't have a problem with filters and so on, even though they look complex. So I've selected a small task here from LinkedIn. So the task is view the list of invitations you have sent recently on LinkedIn. And the first step, of course, is to find out how it's actually done. So on the homepage of LinkedIn, you click on My Network in the navigation bar at the top. And when you come to that page, you click on the little link that says see all 13 invitations, top right. And then you choose the tab Sent up here when you're on the page Manage Invitations. And there you can see, or you could see if I hadn't blurred them out, the sent invitations. So that's how it goes. And I would like to try and ask these 4 questions. Oh yeah, I didn't, yeah. So these questions are based on how we interact with any interface. If we open a door, if we want to open a door, we already have an idea how to open a door. You might be looking for a door handle. But then maybe you open it with a button, and do you notice that button? And when you click that button, does it produce a sound? Does the door open immediately? And then when the door opens, do you know what do you want to do next? Should you close the door, or will it close automatically? And that can be translated into 4 questions. So at each step you would ask, will the user realistically be trying to do this action? Will the user expect this step? Is the control, meaning the icon, the link, the button, the menu item, whatever, is the control for the action visible? Will the user notice it? And is there a strong link between the control and the action? Will the user perceive affordance? This thing is clickable. Does the wording match the user's goal? And if the user does this correctly, is feedback then appropriate? Will the user notice and understand the feedback he or she gets, and then continue with confidence to the next step? So I would like 4 people to, maybe if you're interested, you can put your name in the chat.
So
you unmute, so we form we do a little workshop. Yeah.
So Børge, we do have, if you look at the most recent chats, we do have 4 participants that have put forward their names to help.
Mm-hmm. Including a dog, I hear.
Yes, that is my dog.
Oh.
Big Great Dane on my side, yeah. Okay, so have we unmuted the 4 participants that... Okay,
thank you very much. So maybe you would briefly introduce yourself, just name and country maybe.
I'll start. I'm Lars. I'm in Cape Town, South Africa.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Lars. Very Danish name, actually.
My parents are Swedish.
Oh, yeah.
And can be different.
And who else do we have?
Hey, I'm Austin. Oh, go ahead, Jessica.
I'm Jessica from Brazil.
Hello, Jessica.
Nice to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Oldemiro Baloi from Mozambique.
Hello, good to see you.
Yes.
And
hey, I'm Austin from Baltimore, Maryland, United States.
All right, we have a very international team here. That's great. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you these 4 questions, basically. So the first step is to click on My Network in the navigation bar to find the people I've invited to my network recently. Is that realistic? Will the user assume that that must be in a navigation bar?
I think if the user has used LinkedIn before, they might be familiar with that. Messaging might be another place where they might look for sent.
Yeah, true. But that's actually the third question. So we say yes to the first one. Then is the link visible? the navigation item, is it visible?
I would say yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you started answering that question already. Is there a strong link between the user's task, finding someone I have invited to my network recently, and my network? Is it sufficiently clear?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know about Jessica and the rest of you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and I usually use LinkedIn in like I'll split my screen, so like half of my screen will be LinkedIn and the other half will be something else going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you said my network, I didn't know where to go, because when you compress it like that, they lose the labels. And I'm a pretty avid user of LinkedIn. And I was like, where is it? I know it should be here, but I didn't know what it was. So I had to move to full screen, and the labels shouldn't have showed up, and there it was.
Yeah, that's the strength of being a group, that somebody has a little bit different experience. So it is visible if we are in full screen mode, but what you're saying is if we are not, something happened. So I would definitely make a note of that. And then when if the users actually click the right link, is it clear that they are on the page? Let's see, my network now.
I would say it's pretty clear once you get there.
Does it say my network anywhere?
Yeah, I'm missing the H1 kind of standard practice, you know, having some kind of page title. That's interesting.
Yeah. So
maybe
there might be an issue. There might be an issue that there is actually no heading. What about the navigation item as such? Is it highlighted? Can you see you're under that section?
Yeah.
I actually missed some kind of an ongoing, because most of sites we usually learn how to use it using or following some YouTube videos, because there's a lot of experts, LinkedIn experts. I personally did I read a book, I follow YouTube, and I follow some expert on LinkedIn who introduced me how to use it and how to find out everything you're saying.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would say that that's absolutely fine. It's advanced use and so on. But our goal, of course, as designers, is to design something that people can just walk up and use. And you can remember easily how to do this afterwards. So, okay, we've gone through the first page now, the first set of questions, and it was yes, 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 and no, because we actually don't have a clear, it says manage my network and invitations, but it doesn't actually say you're on my network page. So from here, you should click the see all 13 links. Is that realistic? Would users think they should click in this middle area, or would they maybe consider the navigation bar as the first place to look?
Yeah, that left-hand stack looks almost like an email program pattern. So you might look there for inbox sent kind of thing.
So actually that might be a thing that we don't think maybe that the far right side of the page, that's where people will naturally look for this.
Just a comment. Okay, just a comment. For me, in the first interaction, the thing which I clicked was show more than see all. I think show more is more call to action than see all.
Right.
And when you click show more, it gives another show more option, and it pushes more. I think they would fix that part.
Right. I think that's true. So the next question is it visible, see all 13? And we know people don't notice as much things that are in the upper right corner. And then you have this, you point out that maybe it's more obvious to click show more, because that's more visible. It's colorful, it's in the middle. So I would say no to that question, and it's an excellent point, because it's not always, I mean, see all 13, it is visible, it's there. You can see it without scrolling or anything. But it's just that there is something that is more visible than that.
So Børge, sorry to interrupt you right in the middle there. Just watching the time, we do have a couple announcements, and then we want to maybe shorten the networking. So just checking in as politely as possible.
Of that, yes. So actually, maybe I think we've demonstrated the method already. So thank you all for your comments. And it really shows you already discovered two things that I had not seen going through this earlier. So I will go ahead and show you how to then actually use this, reporting the findings. So what I'll do, so we went through task 1.1 and task 1.2, representing the different pages. And for each step, there is a no answer or yes. And this is how you can actually quantify the results from a cognitive walkthrough. Then I go ahead, when I have this overview, I look at all the reds and I see there must be a problem here. And I try to describe the problems, such as see all 13 link does not provide enough scent. Links have different colors. Sent invitations are not available in the submenu. And then I refer to them. Was this found during the cognitive walkthrough or during the heuristic evaluation, and on which at which step? I might put in some screenshots so that we know what we're talking about. I will refer to the classify them in the heuristic system. I will give a severity rating for each problem. Is this a problem that makes it impossible for some users to figure out, or is it something that delays them, or is it just an annoyance? And then I would go ahead and describe, add a little bit of description for the problems. So that will basically be my reporting. And as you can see now, by using this method, we've actually lived up to the principles from user-centered design. We have had an early focus on our users and their tasks, because this is task-based. And we have done some empirical measurement. We can count how many times, how many steps did we say no, how many steps did we say yes. And that's a good foundation for going on to do an iterative design, fixing these small problems, making the link more prominent, maybe moving it to the left-hand menu, putting a page name in there, and so on. So that's how I suggest we use the heuristics. All right, we will take some final questions before we wrap up.
Fantastic, thank you so much, Børge. So we're actually going to skip the remaining questions, if that's okay with you. We are running quite low on time.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to go through a couple announcements for the next meetup, and then I'll talk to the networking. So those of you that are still with us, thank you for being here. And just a note that we are running a little bit over. So let's just get straight into the remaining slides. So coming in March, March is our next UX Joburg meetup. We have Adam Rotmel. Adam is a product design lead at AstraZeneca. I had to tongue twister there for me. And they're actually a company you might have heard about recently in the news with regards to COVID-19 vaccine. And the invite for this next meetup will be sent out in the next couple of weeks. Just a final thank you to Sand Design for sponsoring tonight. As we said, you can find out more about their services on their website at sanddollardesign.co. And then just to get to the giveaway winners. So our winners of the tickets for the DXZA conference that is happening tomorrow. The first winner is Lars, who was up and chatting to us. I think, Lars, you said you were in Cape Town. Is that correct? Am I pronouncing your name right?
That's right.
Awesome. Well, congrats. You got a ticket. We've also, one of the other participants, and I'm going to be struggling here. Sorry for your name. Aldemiro, did I pronounce that correctly? I saw you came on the camera a little earlier.
Yes,
Aldemiro.
it's correct. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Aldemiro.
Okay, great. That's a first for me. And then Jessica, who was also participating, you are the third winner of the tickets. So congratulations, guys, and hopefully you do have the time to join. Okay, great. And then just a reminder, obviously this is the conference, and it's the first time for this conference. So dxza.co.za if you want to go find out some more information. And then just to explain for the networking part, so guys, this is the pretty much the end of the meetup. So for those of you that are not going to remain for the networking part, after we've broken out into the breakout rooms, we won't be coming back. So you feel free to join. Otherwise, you can obviously get going and enjoy the rest of your evening or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. So how it's going to work is very simple. We're just going to split up into smaller breakout rooms. It's just going to split us all up randomly. And just some of our recommendations that have worked quite well in the past. So just introduce yourselves, discuss tonight's talk, and maybe just touch base on some of the current challenges that you might be facing at work. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything that's going to be happening with that. And just a final thank you to Børge. Really great to have you on tonight. And thank you for everyone who managed to join today. So I think Yaku, from your side, you're going to break us out. Okay, there you go. So all of you should see already a pop-up. And you should be able to start splitting. Yeah, the numbers are coming down. Awesome. Thanks, guys.